Hello everyone, it's day 50 and today I have April 2020, April 22, 2024 Indian Express newspaper, and again I have that explained page on which I find two important articles with respect to examination, important articles with respect to examination, and one important article on the economy page which is regarding the direct tax collection, which is up by 18%. So let us see what these articles are to. So, first article is about the climate change and how climate change is fueling litigation in India, not only in India but around the world also. So, let us see. In an important ruling that could energize climate litigation in India, the Supreme Court on April 6 said people have had a fundamental right to be free from adverse impact of climate change, and that this right flowed naturally from right to life and right to equality guaranteed in the Constitution. The court said people's right to clean air or a clean environment was already recognized in Indian jurisprudence, and given increasing havoc being caused by the climate change, it was necessary to carve out. It was necessary to carve out the right to protect a right to be protected against its adverse effect as a distinct right in itself. The apex court judgment came in case in which climate change was only incidental to arguments. The main matter pertained to the conservation of great Indian bustard and endangered bird. The court, however, used the climate change argument to move away from the immediate issue and address the larger problem of the risk that people face from the climate change. So, the rise of climate litigation. The Supreme Court's articulation comes at a time when there is a global surge in the number of people seeking legal remedies for issues related to climate change. As government and corporate actions on climate remain woefully inadequate, more and more people feel the brunt of climate change impacts, and an increasing number of concerned individuals and groups have been turning to courts to set things right. The 2023 edition of the Global Climate Litigation Report, a periodic publication of the UN Environment Program, which is Global Climate Litigation Report. Okay, so this is important to note down. Global Climate Litigation Report. So, Global Climate Litigation Report, a periodic which is by UNEP, identified 2180 climate related cases being heard by the courts, tribunals, and other adjudicatory bodies in 65 countries. The 2020 edition of the same publication had identified 1550 cases in 39 countries, while the 2017 edition had found 884 cases in 24 countries. The bulk of these cases have been filed in developed countries, mainly the United States and Europe, but increasingly cases are being filed in developing countries as well. The report identified 11 cases in India, putting it 14th on the list of countries with the most number of cases. A large proportion of these cases have been used rights based frameworks similar to the one articulated by the Supreme Court. Petitioners have invoked the right to life, human rights, right to health, etc., to press for greater climate action. In several cases, courts have concurred and given favorable verdicts. Most recently, a group of elderly Swiss women successfully argued before the European Court of Human Rights that their rights to family life were being violated because of the adverse health effects of heat waves. The court held that the government of Switzerland had indeed violated their human rights. People have also sued governments for lack of enforcement of existing climate laws or policies, and corporations for liability, compensation, or greenwashing when firms or the governments give a false impression that all of their products or activities are climate friendly. The increase in climate related cases has also sensitized the court, which are more likely to give favorable judgment than before. But while this may bring greater accountability in government and corporate climate actions, it would be too much to expect these verdicts to make any significant dent in the overall threat from climate change. So, climate litigation in India, let us see. Indian courts have been dealing with the climate related issues for a long time now, even though they might not have been categorized as climate litigation. The National Green Tribunal, which deals exclusively with environmental matters, is the main forum for such cases, but petitions routinely land in high courts and the Supreme Court as well. However, petitions referring or seeking recourse from the broader problems of climate change are rare. The Supreme Court's order on climate change is almost certain to change that. So, what the recent Supreme Court decision has done is to reinforce the critical nature of the climate change, and that would potentially give pave the way for a new jurisprudence where people, socio-economic development, nature, and climate change are equally prioritized. Where people, socio-economic development, nature, and climate are equally prioritized. So Bharat Jairaj, who leads India Energy Program at the World Resources Institute, said. However, the effectiveness of the court rulings on climate change remains a big question mark, particularly in the case of enforcing a right to be free from adverse effects of climate change. Court interventions can be useful in matters relating to air or water pollution or forest or wildlife conservation, but climate change is a very different beast. It is a multidimensional problem that cannot be tackled through any single or a small set of interventions. Minimizing the impacts of climate change is beyond the capability of any single local, regional, or national government. So, Shibani Ghosh, the Supreme Court advocate and visiting fellow at a Sustainable Features Collaborative and an independent research organization, said that for these reasons, the court might not be as activist on climate change as they are on the some other environmental issues, and use a hands-off approach in climate cases in near future. So this was about one important thing that we should note down here is Global Climate Litigation Report, which is published by UNEP, United Nations Environment Program. So let us see another important article, which is about the fourth global mass coral bleaching event, which has been triggered. So let us see what this is. So how does coral bleaching takes place? First is healthy coral algae called zooxanthellae live in the tissues of a coral. Second is stressed coral. When a coral gets stressed, it expels zooxanthellae. Third is bleached coral. Coral turns white after zooxanthellae are expelled. So let us see. The fourth global mass coral bleaching event has been triggered by extraordinary ocean temperature. The U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration said last week. This could have serious consequences for ocean life and millions of people who rely on coral reefs for food, jobs, and coastal defense. So, what are corals and coral reefs? Corals are animals which are sessile, meaning they permanently attach themselves to the ocean floor. They use their tentacle like hands to catch food from the water and sweep it into their mouths. Each individual coral animal is known as polyp, and it lives in a group of hundred to thousands of genetically identified polyps that forms a colony. Corals are largely classified as either hard coral or soft coral. It is a okay hard coral or soft coral. It is the hard coral that the architects of coral reefs complex three-dimensional structure build up over thousands of years. Unlike soft corals, hard corals have stony skeletons made out of limestone that are produced by coral polyps. When polyps die, their skeleton are left behind and used as a foundation for new polyps. So, what is the significance of corals? Coral reefs are crucial ecosystem as thousands of marine species can be found living on one reef. Scientists believe that there could be millions of undiscovered species of organisms living in and around reefs. Every year, reefs provide around 2.7 trillion in goods and services. According to reefs provide around 2.7 trillion in goods and services, according to a 2022 estimate by the Global Coral Reef Monitoring Network. Reuters reported more than 500 million people across the world depend on coral reefs for food, income, and coastal protection. So, coral reefs can absorb up to 97% of energy from waves. Okay, so this is important, up to 97% of energy from waves, storms, floods, which prevents loss of life and property damage. Therefore, the absence of coral reefs would result in severe ramifications for both marine life and humans. So, what is coral bleaching? The most coral contains algae called zooxanthellae, a plant-like organism in their tissues. Corals and zooxanthellae have a symbiotic relationship. While corals provide zooxanthellae a safe place to live, zooxanthellae provides oxygen and organic products of photosynthesis that help corals to grow and thrive. Zooxanthellae also give bright and unique colors to coral. So corals are very sensitive to light, temperature, and pollution, and even a small change in their surroundings can stress them. So when stressed, they expel zooxanthellae and turn entirely white. So this is called coral bleaching. So coral bleaching doesn't necessarily lead to death of corals; it rather reduces the reproductivity of corals and make them more vulnerable to fatal diseases. So this is important. Coral bleaching does not necessarily lead to the death of corals. So, if the bleaching is not too severe, corals have been known to recover. So, global mass bleaching of coral reefs happens when significant coral bleaching confirmed in the Atlantic, Indian, and Pacific Oceans. According to a report published by the Conservation, such events are relatively new phenomena. The first one took place in 1998. Okay, so first in 1998, in which 20% of the world's uh, reef reef areas suffered bleaching level heat stress. The next two global bleaching event occurred in 2010, in which 35% affected, and 2014 and 17, which 56% of reef affected. So what is happening right now? The NOAA, that is National Oceanic Administration of Atmospheric Administration, has confirmed that the fourth global bleaching event is currently underway. Nearly 54 countries, territories, and local economies from the US, Saudi Arabia to Fiji have confirmed bleaching, according to a report by the New York Times. The Great Barrier Reef of Australia, the largest in the world, is witnessing its most severe bleaching event. Reefs in the western Indian Ocean, including the Tanzania, Kenya, of the western coast of Indonesia, have also been affected. In total, more than 54% of the world's coral reefs have experienced bleaching level heat stress in the past year, and that number is increasing by about 1% per week. Okay, so 54% of the world's coral reefs have witnessed, and increasing 1% by per week. So, why is it happening? Although there can be several reasons for coral bleaching, the key driver behind the ongoing global event is higher ocean temperatures. Since mid March 2023, the average sea surface temperature has been abnormally high. In March this year, it reached a record monthly high of 21.00 degrees Celsius, according to the EU Copernicus Climate Change Services. Temperatures are soaring mainly because of the rising emissions of heat trapping greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide and methane. Nearly 90% of the extra heat trapped by greenhouse gases has been absorbed by the oceans. That is why they have become so warm. So corals begin to bleach when surrounding waters become at least 1 degree Celsius warmer than the maximum average temperature and persist for 4 to more weeks, according to scientists. The situation has been exacerbated by the El Nino. So, El Nino, a weather pattern which is associated with warmer oceans, which developed in June 2023. Now that it is weakening, and a cooling La Nina may set in by the end of the year, the global mass coral bleaching event may not last very long. So, the full impact of the event will not be known for a while, but scientists have said that it is the most severe yet. So, one important article that I found on the economy page was about the direct tax collection that increases by 18% in financial year 24. So, income tax collection continue to be higher than corporate tax mop up. So, this is important. Income tax is higher than now. It was earlier not a trend. First used to be a GST, and then corporate tax, then income tax. Now income tax have surpassed corporate tax. So net corporate tax collection was rupees 9.11 lakh crore in financial year 24, while net personal income tax mop up to 10.44 lakh crore. So this is very important that Indians are started paying taxes, and more Indians are coming into the tax bracket, which is important for the and a good indicator of a good economic growth. So that's all from today's newspaper. We'll again meet tomorrow with some important articles. Till then,